So guys, reacting is a tricky process, and sometimes even the best laid plans can go completely awry. So I figured today I would make a video, coming first to patrons and later on the channel itself, about the 5 things that can really ruin a reaction and how to either avoid or fix them. So in my going on just over 3 years now of being a reactor on YouTube, I've had my share of setbacks, roadblocks, speed bumps, and various and similar. So they've taught me quite a bit, and hopefully I can pay that forward and pass some of that knowledge down to you guys. And of course, I myself am still learning every day. It's an evolving process, and as I go along, I become aware of new things. I hopefully improve more and more in every aspect of what I do. And that's the journey that being a reactor or a content creator in general really is all about. But what I have learned, I can share with you in this video. So here's thing number 1, and this is probably one of the biggest and most obvious. Noise. So you sit down, you press record, and you're just about to film an awesome reaction, and all of a sudden, you hear noise from your neighbors. This is applying, of course, to people who live in an apartment building. Now, this is one that I have years of experience with. Now, personally, I deal with a neighbor who is very rude. They slam their doors, they bang on the walls. One key to fixing this is that you might want to pick a certain time to film where you think this isn't going to happen. Possibly filming later at night or filming earlier in the morning. This might be a little bit of a hassle. It might make you have to shift your personal schedule around a little bit. But unfortunately, these things happen, once again, especially if you live in an apartment building. If you live in a house, noisy neighbors might be a bit easier to manage, but that's one hurdle that you have to overcome. And you have to figure out how to work around that and come up with a strategy. There are plenty of other types of noise that could also come about and completely ruin the moment in a reaction, such as an ambulance or police siren out the window. Of course, this should be a no-brainer, but close your windows. Or your pet's making noise. For example, one of the cats that we have is making noise right now. I don't know if it picks up in this video, but it's happening as I'm speaking, playing with one of their toys. So one other bit of advice I have for you when it comes to that is learn to do jump cuts in your video. So in other words, while you're in the editing program, making your video all refined and fresh and perfect, one of the things you should keep in mind is that if there is a scene that isn't crucial that has to be left in the video, and there's a bit of noise happening during that scene, you want to cut that little bit out. And this is tricky. It takes work, it takes experience. It takes, trial and error to know how to really cut a scene perfectly so that it's a seamless transition from one second to the next. I've succeeded, I think, at this more than I've failed, but I have failed in the past, in my opinion, and it is, once again, tricky to do. But this is one of the best solutions to cutting out troublesome noise that could really ruin a viewer's experience watching your video. So those are my 2 bits of advice when it comes to noise. Pick a good time to film, a time when things are very quiet, when you can do so without interruption, and if there absolutely is an interruption that you can't avoid, learn to do jump cuts in your video editing. And one third bit of advice when it comes to this issue is get a good microphone. I have to personally thank my friend Ben for sending me a mic. It's really made a world of difference in my reactions, and it's a really good quality mic. It's Blue Yeti is the company, the type of microphone that it's called. Now, I know this requires an investment of time and money, but if you can, invest in a good quality mic and pop filter that will cut out that background sound. Cut out the noise from next door, cut out the noise from your pets or out the window, and just keep the sound of your voice in. Obviously, I'm not using a mic for this video, but going forward for all my reactions, I absolutely do. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 that can totally ruin your reaction: poor lighting and quality. Now, this is something that is also a learning experience. You hopefully get better as you go along, and you pick up new things and you learn new things. Now, when you start filming, ideally, you want a good source of light in front of you, and you don't want a source of light directly behind you. And this was actually something that I learned on one of my first jobs, my first trips as a journalist down in New Orleans when I was taking photos. Basically, in order to properly light your subject, you want a good source of light in front of them, but not behind them. For instance, if they're outside, you don't want the sun directly behind them because that makes everything in the foreground extremely dark and very difficult to see. Lighting on the sides is fine if it doesn't outshine the lighting that is in front of you. But ideally, your strongest and brightest source of light should be in front of you, but it shouldn't be so bright that it's blinding, that it completely casts you in a glow as if you just came down from heaven. So it's tricky to get the lighting exactly correct, but you'll be able to tweak it and see what it looks like on camera. And when it looks perfect, or as close to perfect as you can make it, that's when you're good to go. Of course, lighting is only one aspect of this. The other aspect, equally as important, is quality. quality of your camera. And even if you have a quality camera, you have to make sure that the lens is always clean. That's one thing that I had to learn early on. Sometimes I would see like a really glaring smear-looking light in the video, and I was like, what is causing this? And then I realized that there was a fingerprint or some dust on the lens. So I had to break out my electronic wipes and give my phone a wipe down. And while we're on the subject of phones, you better have a good quality phone, one that has good video quality if you do plan on using your phone to film. If you don't, you either have to get a better phone or invest in a professional camera. I actually was able to get away with just using my phone, and I'm very thankful that it is good video quality. But the sound quality was not on par with it, and so I'm, once again, very glad that I got that mic. And sound quality is also something that you should keep in mind. That's very much part of this. So good lighting, good camera, and good sound. Problem number 3 is something that people perhaps don't think about as often, but this one is very important to keep in mind. Internet disruption. You know, when I moved here, I heard various differing stories on Spectrum. My girlfriend had Spectrum when she lived in Florida and California and never had any issue with it. My former roommate had family members in New York who had Spectrum, and they had an awful experience, so I didn't know what to think. When I got it, I quickly found out that my experience has not been great. We have internet outages, not super often, but often enough that they're a pain in the ass. And our last outage it lasted for almost 24 hours, I would say. So it was really a pain. And we've had such headaches with internet in the past few months or so that we had to invest a lot of time and energy into fixing. And now we finally have, thankfully. Knock on wood, if I could find any wood near me. There we go. So internet is something you really want to make sure you have good quality service and that you're in an area of the apartment that isn't like a dead zone, that gets a good internet speed. And even if you have that, outages are still a possibility. And so one tip/trick that I can tell you guys about, when you're watching something that you're reacting to in real time on video, what you want to do beforehand is take the song or video that you plan to react to. If it's a movie, it's a bit more difficult. But if it's a video, a song, a music video, whatever, download it to your computer. And then when you actually watch it for the reaction, play it in a local media player that you have on your computer. VLC media player is one that I would recommend, but any media player will suffice. Just make sure you have the proper codecs. But this is a very good idea. And if you don't know how to download a video from YouTube, just Google YouTube downloader, and I promise a bunch of sites will come up that let you not only download the video, but also convert it to MP3 if you need to. There's all kinds of cool stuff like that. I use a website for that to download videos because I need the videos on my computer anyway to sync them up in my reactions when I actually go into the editing process. But regardless, it's a good idea to download the video beforehand if you think there's going to be an internet outage. So then, even if there is, you don't need that internet connection to watch the video. Problem number 4, lack of authenticity and care. This one, people have differing opinions on it. I personally believe that a lack of honesty, a lack of authenticity absolutely will ruin a reaction video. And I've seen from people who, in my opinion, have not been authentic, I've seen over time how that slowly kills the viewership and kills the drive for people to want to come back and watch that person's videos. I really believe that you should not only be honest and genuine, but actually have a passion for what you're doing. Look, if you're getting into reactions, you should want to react. The passion should be there. The energy should be there. You should know why you're reacting and why you want to react to this song or that song. And not only that, but you should be honest in terms of how you feel about the music. If you like it, mention why. Go into all the details, break it down. If you dislike it, that's fine too, but still try and be objective about the music itself. Like, there are plenty of songs that I dislike, but that does not make it a bad song. And I try and always elucidate that as well as possible in my videos. You should do the same. It's very important. If you want a relationship with your viewers and you want to maintain that relationship, it should be built on a foundation of honesty and integrity. Look, passion is also a very key thing that I want to mention again, because I've seen reactors where they'll start playing a metal song and they're so disgusted and they can't fathom how this could be music that they just stop the reaction before it's even halfway through and they're like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Well, you know what? Maybe you're in the wrong business. Look, it's not wrong to be turned off by a piece of music. It's not wrong to be like, this is not my thing at all. This is not my energy. This is not my speed. That's perfectly fine. But at least let the video play out. listen to the whole song, give it a chance, be as open-minded as possible, be as patient as you possibly can, and just really give it your effort. And if you tried and you tried your best to understand it, to really try and appreciate it, to really try and empathize with where fans of the music or artist were coming from, and at the end of the day, you tried your hardest and you still don't like the song, and you tell your viewers that, I believe that most of your viewers, the trolls aside, will still respect you when all is said and done. But you have to put in the work, you have to put in the effort, and you have to make sure that your passion is there. And, on a similar note, I saw a YouTuber who was just blatantly doing it for money. And look, this is work. I maintain that reactors should be paid for what they do, especially if you're doing a full music review and breakdown. Yes, that is work. Music reviewers who do these for magazines and websites, they get paid for what they do, whether they're freelance or full-time or whatever. Content creators should be paid as well, and I fiercely support and advocate for that. At the same time, though, that should not be the only reason why you're doing it. If you get into reacting, the passion should go right along with that. And I've seen a reactor who was just trying to sell their rap CD and mixtape, and that was their videos were the excuse to do that. And the person had no response, no emotional connection to any of the music they were reacting to. They just sat there like a zombie and then hammered it home after the reaction itself was over at the end of the video that you should buy their mixtape or whatever. That's not authentic. That's not being a good reactor. Sorry, not sorry. So be honest, be real, whether you like the song or don't. Be objective, be open-minded, be passionate, and don't be greedy. 6 things you should very much keep in mind when it comes to this particular problem. And finally, problem number 5. The last but not the least. Small blunders and mistakes. This could be anything. This could be the one little thing, the little wrench that gets thrown in the works that disrupts everything and turns your otherwise normal everyday reaction into chaos. Look, I'm not ashamed to admit that one time I put my phone on my tripod and I had the video flipped backwards so that instead of seeing me talking during the reaction, you were just seeing a picture of the wall. Thankfully, I quickly realized the problem before it was too late. But this could happen to anyone. It's a blunder that anyone can make. For example, you could forget to turn the volume on your video, on your phone, and it could be muted the whole time. So instead of hearing this, you're just hearing... You know what I mean? So these things can happen to people. Don't be embarrassed. Well, maybe be a little embarrassed, but learn from the mistakes. It might be a good idea to implement a checklist of all the things that you make sure you do beforehand. Make sure you're ready to go before you actually start filming. For example, I make a little list in my head, and if I feel that I need to, I actually write down a list. Is my mic plugged in? Is my camera facing the right way? Is the volume on? Is my computer working properly? Do I have the right song and video pulled up? Do I have some little notes that I think I might want to touch upon when I do my lyrical breakdown? Are those pulled up? Are those ready to go? Do I have the actual lyrics pulled up so I don't have to look for them in the middle of the video? And look, sometimes I falter on one or more of these things. Sometimes I make a mistake. It happens to all of us. So don't feel defeated because you made some small little error that you think you're above, that you think you could never have possibly made, and how could I have done this? And I feel so terrible and everything is ruined. Instead of feeling that way, look at it as being a learning experience. And going forward, how can I rectify this? Can I make a list? Can I give myself reminders until it's really, really ingrained in my head to do this? There are a lot of moving pieces when it comes to reacting. It's a multifaceted process, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot to keep in mind. It's tricky, it's difficult, but in the end, it's worth it. So these are all 5 potential problems that could come up during filming, and they're all part of the process, man. But you also got to learn from them. You have to avoid the mistakes, and you have to avoid the bad decisions, and you have to really know why you're getting into this, why you want to be a content creator. So keep these things in mind, and if you get into reactions, I hope they'll help you along the way. They've definitely helped me on my journey, and again, I learn more and more as I go along. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope it becomes useful in some way to someone watching this. And again, patrons will see this first, so if you want to be part of that crowd, go on my Patreon and get in on that bonus content. It's well worth your time. And also, again, people on the channel will see this weeks, maybe even months later. So we'll see how that goes. Probably also you'll see clips of this on TikTok. I've got some more ideas for helpful videos on content creation and being a reactor, and you'll see those pop up in the days and weeks to come as well. If you made it this far, I really appreciate that. Thanks for watching, guys. Much love to the nuclear family, and I will catch you all very soon.